Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the last days. My name's Laura-Lynn Tyler Thompson, and I had a great weekend. I tried to have some downtime because I thought that Friday's show was pretty upsetting, and I'm concerned about all of these fires worldwide. And I've went into someone who's done some real extensive research on how many fires are happening right now. I mean, literally, Africa is lit up with fires. And just wondering exactly what is going on in the world. It's kind of crazy. So, you know that I love to read from my dad's Bible, and I opened it up today, and I came to, again, another verse that my dad has highlighted. It's actually 3 verses, and it's in Psalms 108. And my dad absolutely loved this Bible, and this has become a treasure to our family. My brother doesn't get to have it in front of him all the time. I get my dad's Bible, so I feel kind of special in that regard, but I'm not sure. Maybe Jeff got lots more of the inheritance, don't you think? I'm going to say that my brother is like the favorite. He was the favorite. But anyways, I'm fine with that. I'm just kidding. I'm pretty sure it was my dad's favorite. Anyways, we fight about that. So Psalms 108, verse 7, it says this. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. It's actually Psalms 109. So verse 7 says, verse 6, let's start in verse 6 because he underlined one word in there. Set thou a wicked man over him, and let Satan stand at his right hand. So what are they talking about here? Talking about the wicked. Hold not thy peace, O God of my praise, for the mouth of the wicked and the mouth of the deceitful are opened against me. So basically, the psalmist is writing about the wicked people. So he's saying, set a wicked man over them, and let Satan stand at their right hand. When he shall be judged, let him be condemned, and let his prayer become sin. Let his days be few, and let another take his office. David did not mince words. So when he saw people that were unjust in the land, when he saw rulers that were not doing what they were supposed to do in the land, he prayed prayers asking God to deal with them, to basically put another, sometimes God will take out an evil man by putting another evil man in their place. But it really makes me wonder what kind of judgment we're under when we've got to deal with all that we deal with Justin Trudeau. I mean, Canada is a land that was founded on godly principles, and yet we find that we have become so corrupt. The amount of overlooking by mainstream media of the truth, not ever speaking the truth, basically giving Trudeau a pass. It seems to be turning a little. I've seen some things beginning to come against him. Is he expendable now? I don't know. Maybe they've used up the millions of dollars that have been paid to them by the Liberal government. The mainstream media, of course, has received millions of dollars to carry the narrative. When a land does not have integrity in its reporting systems, when it does not speak the truth, and where people are silenced for trying to tell the truth, that's when you know that you've been seized. And we had a guest on Friday. If you didn't see Friday's show, oh my goodness, it's 14,000 on Rumble right now, and climbing. And I think, we go live to about 8 platforms every single day, but Rumble is a good determiner of if a show kind of hit the mark, or, if people are resonating with what was talked about. And I can honestly say that seeing what is happening to that beautiful police officer in Ontario who, had a few questions regarding infant deaths, sudden infant deaths, and the suspicion around all of that. And then she, in her duties as an officer, comes forward and says, I think this should be investigated. And what happens? Well, she is basically silenced and now, taken to court. So I just sneezed like 3 times right before we went to air. So just ignore my little sniffle. I don't have a cold or anything. I got dust in the studio or something. So I'm okay. I'm excited today because we have on. Oh yes, about the officer in Ontario. We have, what is his name? Yeah, Donald Best is going to be on, and he's been in every court case. and he has got the down low. So on Wednesday, we're going to have him to explain to us what is going on in our justice system. And God help them all, because there's just so much injustice. Look what's happened to Artur Pawlowski. We've got 4 guys in jail regarding the Coutts situation. Each and every one of them. I talked to 2 of them on Friday because that was my birthday. And isn't it strange that the Coutts boys, 2 of them have a birthday on my same birth date, August 18th. So bizarre. So I get a call from them wishing me a happy birthday. Now, these 2 guys, they did not know each other. And actually, one of them is a triplet. So his 2 siblings, all of them born on August 18th. But these guys didn't really know each other. They just met each other the day before or something. They all thought that they were getting arrested. They'd be given a mischief charge and they'd get out. I mean, they had absolutely no idea that 550 days, 50 odd some days later, whatever the number is now, they'd still be in jail. No court trial. No swift justice done. And in fact, there is a sealed envelope that nobody truly knows whether the judge has looked at or not, that they do believe might exonerate these guys. And yet they remain there. So I have a lot of questions about our justice system. I have a lot of questions about what's going on with the fires. Some concerns that I've heard from people reporting into me, personal eyewitnesses, people telling us what their friends have said. Basically, at bare minimum, terrible management. Terrible. David Eby, terrible management. Whatever is going on with fires, I think that that's more important, that we protect our country than we be delivering these millions of dollars into other countries like the Ukraine. We are not taking care of Canada first, and it is appalling. So there's another situation. We all remember the National Citizens Inquiry that was on recently, and some tremendous people came forward, gave their stories of the things that have been going on since all of this, since I guess 2020, early on. We know what happened there, and it changed everything. So I'd like to invite to the show Rick Abbott. He is the staff sergeant recently suspended from the Edmonton Police Service for attending the protests in Milk River and Coutts. He went there on his personal time, and his mission that day was to determine for himself which media sources were being honest and to plead for peace to those participating. That sounds like a good thing to do for a citizen, for a police officer, for somebody invested in this nation, that you would go for yourself to have a look. This has happened to a lot of other people as well. Rick has over 25 years of experience in law enforcement, the lion's share of which was operational. His primary jobs included over a decade in the tactical teams, with roles from operational sniper to commander in patrol services on the front lines, as well as extensive instruction in firearms, use of force, engagements, and he comes with an extremely unique perspective on all of this. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Rick Abbott to the show. Thank you very much. Thank you for your incredible testimony at the National Citizens Inquiry. And I'm hoping that we can kind of get your story and share it to an audience here today that may not have heard what transpired. So how many years basically were you in and on the Edmonton Police Force?
Thanks for having me, Laura-Lynn. I was just over 25 years with the Edmonton Police Service.
25 years. So I guess you heard about, an uprising in the land, people a bit upset about some things that were happening. And then right in your area in Alberta, there was some people protesting down at the Coutts border and whatnot. So tell me a little bit about that, like how you came to understand what was going on. I guess you'd heard that there had been a freedom convoy that was kind of, I think, relatively in the same time period, right? So what was it you heard, and what were you doing in order to kind of, check out what the truth was on the matters?
Yeah, you bet. It's an interesting connection that I'm sure some of your listeners will know. One of the people involved, exactly as you said, I was interested in what was going on because I was getting two different stories, as all Canadians were, independent media sources like yours that I was listening to, versus the, what do we call them now, legacy media sources, had a dichotomy of stories. One was saying that it was good Canadians. They're fed up with federal mandates, asking for change and protesting peacefully. And then the mainstream media was making it out that there was a bunch of hillbillies and hicks, borderline terrorists, taking over downtown Ottawa and a border in the small town of Coutts and Milk River here in Alberta. There's very few, certainly promoted ranks within the police services across the nation that were speaking out against this. And my name obviously came up with a listener, or sorry, a person that your listeners will know about, Corporal Danny Bulford. It's a small world.
Oh,
Danny
yeah.
was also a sniper with the emergency response team responsible for protecting the Prime Minister. He phoned me. He got a number through a friend, of a friend, and he heard that I had questions. Danny had recently landed in Ottawa and was helping with security there. And so I wanted to hear from him what was going on. And I told him just what I told you. Somebody's lying. Somebody's not telling the truth. And Danny, again, we have a similar background and I trusted his opinion. He said, don't believe me. He told me, Rick, go look for yourself. He says, come down to Ottawa. We'd love to have you here, but if you can't make it, that's fine. He says, he told me, I bet any money, though, if you go down to Milk River, you'll find the same things going on down there. So I took the challenge and I went for myself to see what was going on in Milk River. And I got to give credit to Corporal Wolford. He nailed it. It was good people in Milk River and in Coutts looking for changes to these draconian measures that were coming from Ottawa.
Wow. So good people. So what does that mean to a Canadian? To me, I know my fellow patriots, the people that have been standing for this nation, they love the flag. They love Canada. They love the national anthem. They want to see a true north, strong and free. So to me, when you say they're good people, Albertans, this is a very conservative province. So is that kind of what you mean? And what did you see there?
When I say a good Canadian, I mean these were all working class people. Every walk of life was there. Sure, there were some truckers, but actually, if I were to describe the general population that was in Milk River when I visited, it'd be farmers. So those were truly the backbone of our society that feed us. I've come from a rural background from Saskatchewan originally, and I know a farmer when I can see him. But there were nurses, there were mechanics, there were business owners, there were doctors present who had been silenced. And to make fun of it, again, this was the biggest Canada Day party I had ever seen. I joke about how many teeth I saw when I first got into Milk River because everybody was smiling so big. And then when I say good people, this is the type of demographic, excuse me, that is so law-abiding that I knew there was alcohol there. Now consider, there was thousands upon thousands. If I had to guess, if there was 1,000, there were 5,000 people at the party, as I'll refer to it from here in Milk River. And these were the type of Canadians that don't walk around with open alcohol. These are the type of Canadians that put a rum and coke into a go mug so that nobody knows what they're drinking. I never saw an open lick of alcohol. That's the kind of good people that I'm talking about. So this was a party made for families. It was, as you were reporting, it was jumpy castles, horsey rides, and barbecues.
Right. Did you see kids there?
Lots of kids.
Lots
One
of
of my
kids.
one of my greatest regrets from that day is that I didn't have mine with me so that they could have shared in the patriotic fun that was going on at Milk River. It's sad that they didn't see it.
Was it clean, clean, well-behaved people? they were having fun. You saw all these smiles. People were laughing. Was there any, did you witness any singing at any point? How long were you there actually?
I was only in Milk River for a couple of hours.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, from the sights and smells would be just like going to a small town rodeo. The barbecue smells, the hay, the manure from the horses, the laughter. Those were the sights and sounds that I saw. But again, like you say, a well-kept camping spot. There was lots of people there that came down with portable campers, and it was all clean.
So basically, the families of Canada, and were you able to tell why they had all gathered? What was the reason, the thought behind it?
They were there, and I spoke to a lot of them, hundreds of them. They were there to protest the draconian lockdowns, the rules surrounding COVID. People were tired of it. We knew well by this time, so this was in January of 22, we all knew that the rules were incongruous. The rules were ridiculous. None of it was making sense, and people were protesting those draconian rules, asking for change, as they are legally asked to do. And you did a good job in the introduction. That was my second goal. Once I found out who was in Milk River and Coutts, my next step was to encourage them to remain peaceful. I reminded them that Canadian law, as it stood, allows people to peacefully protest. As soon as they're not peaceful, you're no longer lawfully placed. And that's what I wanted to do. And even inside of that point is that I told them that as soon as you're not peaceful, your message will be lost to the rest of Canadians. So I just encouraged them to continue what they were doing.
So I'm not from Alberta, and when you say Milk River and Coutts, are they pretty close to each other?
Yes, don't quote me, but I would say that the border at Coutts is about 30 kilometers south of the town of Milk River, which it shares the highway with. So the road in Milk River had been blocked by the RCMP to limit the number of people that could get down to the border at Coutts, which as a police officer, understand. You'd want to limit the number of people down there. Blocking an international border is illegal. Let's be clear. And I can walk and chew gum at the same time. We're talking about two different things when we talk about Milk River and Coutts.
Okay. So you went to Milk River. Did you also head down to Coutts?
I did. So I hadn't actually planned on my initial trip to go to Coutts, but now that I had seen what I saw in Milk River, confirmed that the legacy media was lying, now I'm interested to see what's going on at Coutts. And I know my way through the rural roads, as I'd mentioned earlier, and even though the road was blocked, you could get there through range roads and townships. So I went down to Coutts to see for myself what was happening at the border. And the police there were welcoming visitors. You could walk in freely to the Coutts border to see the people that were effectively blocking the border.
Okay, and what was that feeling like down there?
That was a different feeling. It was not a party. This was a somber feeling that I got when I was there. It was business. Don't get me wrong, it was the same people. It was mostly farmers that I met there who were fed up with the federal mandates, specifically the truckers who were now being targeted and not allowed to cross the borders. I had been asked to speak in Milk River to a public crowd. There had to have been at least 100 people watching. And I told them the same thing I told you, is that as long as you're peaceful, you're lawfully placed here. And you're encouraged to stay if you're peaceful, but as soon as you're not, obviously this is illegal. When I spoke to the people in Coutts, and this was with a couple of their de facto leaders and their counsel, so their lawyer was there. I was asked to speak publicly in Coutts, and I declined. I said, no, this is illegal. And I told them, you're going to get arrested. This is going to come to an end. The message I gave to these folks and their lawyer was, though, that I coached them on how to do that peacefully. When this comes to an end, and I told them from my experience as a commander, the nation won't allow this to go on forever. I coached them and their lawyers how to maintain peace, encourage them to stay peaceful, and then coach them again on their constitutional rights if that arrest were to come to fruition.
And so, did you feel that anyone was not was belligerent or rude to you? If you're giving a very good message, and yes, I can see what you're saying. It's just completely different thing. Were they actually blocking anyone from coming or going in and out of the country?
Good catch. That's why I said effectively blocked. Only in the good Canadian fashion of unlawful activity, the folks at Coutts had left a lane open. So emergency crews could come back and forth freely through the border, but as their lawyer even admitted, they've effectively blocked an international border. And again, thanks for the cue. There was not a party atmosphere. There was no alcohol. It was a serious business-like attitude that I saw in Coutts.
So was it different in, was there men and women and children, or what did you witness?
Absolutely. Again, it was the same people. So they did come from all walks of life. There were a few truckers there. There were a lot of ranchers and farmers, and they were there with their friends and families. The kids were out playing hockey
Okay.
on street hockey. The kids were playing street hockey. I would say they were the only ones really having fun, though. There was a lot of fellowship going on, and the other way I'd describe these people at the border is I would call them believers. There was most of the people I talked to anyway were definitely believers in a higher power, and they were not the criminal type. So I have a good experience after 25 years of arresting people that I would say I'd be surprised if any of the people at Coutts had a criminal record beyond an impaired driving charge from 40 years ago or an assault charge when they were 19. And that's a stretch for me to give you those numbers. These were all good people. None of them had criminal records.
Right. So you were seeing men and women, families, kids, but they're blocking, even though it was open. But it was more of a serious blockade. They were definitely wanting to make, I guess, a very strong statement. And that's interesting. So now how you felt that there was believers there. And that makes sense because one of the guys, Tony, who's one of the political prisoners in jail right now for 554 days as of today without justice or, the closing of a trial, which seems really difficult. But Granny Coutts tells me today it's 554 days. But Tony, I mean, he held the longest Bible study that a prison has or a remand center's ever seen. He's really a godly man. We pray every time that he calls, and so that makes sense to me. And what made you could just tell by their demeanor. Maybe some people said, well, we're just standing on guard for our country. We need God to help us. Was it comments like this that would give you the indication that many were believers? Was there a Bible around? Were they singing or anything else?
Oh, they'd openly pray. And when I'd first met them, I had introduced myself as a current police officer. I didn't mention where I worked. And they joked with me. They said, "Are you sure you're not undercover?" And I joked with them, "Look at this haircut. I'm on top of the covers. I'm not undercover." They were very thankful for the message that I brought to them. And then they prayed with me in front of their lawyer at one point, thanking me for bringing that message.
Unbelievable. Okay, so that's really cool. So they prayed with you, and I mean, this is beautiful because Alberta, I know from once having spent a few months, good portion of a year there, intermingling, that this is a praying province. This is a group of people that are just so committed to God and country. And so, so you have these couple of experiences. Definitely, Coutts was a more serious, and you weren't encouraging that at all, because and you didn't speak there. You just went to observe.
That's correct.
And so we've kind of, is there anything else you want to mention about actually going, or we've kind of got that down? Because the next important part is sort of what happened to you personally and in your career after that.
Yeah, and I should emphasize, I went there on a day off. I went there in civilian clothing. I never mentioned the company that I worked for. I did say that I'm a cop. I was proud of being a cop.
Right.
I'm still proud of my career. Don't get me wrong. And I've never been the type to hide what I've done from anybody. I'm not afraid of bad guys. Some police officers don't like to advertise that they're cops. I've always said I'm a cop. And when I got back to Edmonton, it didn't take a week, and the timelines are getting blurry to me. Someone had videotaped me with that speech that I gave in Milk River, where I encouraged people to be peaceful. And they posted it on their Facebook page. Somehow that made it to the chief of police here in Edmonton. And I think one of the legacy media outlets did no, they didn't do a story. Sorry, again, I'm getting this wrong. Anyway, it got back to the police chief that I had been in Milk River, and I was immediately suspended for having attended. And they said that I posted that video on my social media, which of course would violate Edmonton Police Service policy. Here's how careful I was with policy. On the way down there, I had gone with a friend who I'm not allowed to speak to right now, because I believe she's currently under investigation under the Police Act, and that's Constable Elena Golishova. We'd studied Edmonton police policy on the way there, ensuring that we didn't step on our own toes and get into trouble while being down there. So I knew we couldn't post anything on social media, and I'm probably one of the 65 people my age in Western Canada who've never had a Facebook account. So I did not post that on Facebook. I don't even have a pseudonym on Facebook. I've never been a member. And I was suspended for having attended the border and B, posting and violating Edmonton Police Service media policies.
Wow. So that must have been quite a shock to you. Did you put in an appeal, or were you stunned yourself personally when that happened?
Yes, because it wasn't true. So it was an outright lie about what I had done. But the more you scratch the surface, the worse it gets. So I was never interviewed. Our professional standards branch, or internal affairs as they would be known by civilians, no one asked me what I did down there. The suspension came, and our union, we call it an association, they were nowhere to help either. In fact, my union bosses told me outright that there's really nothing that they could do about this. They said that the chief could keep me suspended for years on end if they chose to, and I know that story. That's what shocked me, that there was nobody to stick up for police officers. So that's the shocking part, and that's what I mean by the further you peel this onion, the worse it gets. And that's the message I'm trying to get across to folks like you, is that if Canadians want their police officers to act independently and critically, then there's got to be swift and dramatic changes to those union rules, because I've been made a great example of, despite what I thought was a valuable career to the community at large here. There is no taste for police officers even asking questions or having what I call today in 1984 language of wrong think. So that's the shocking part to me, is that there's no hope. The unions are lockstep with the employers, and there's no protection for the police officers.
So the unions are actually supposed to be separate so that they protect you, defend you if something goes wrong, if there's some sort of issue. They're arbitrators in that. Is that correct?
It should be, but imagine they acted like the rest of the unions across Canada.
Yeah.
They were persona non grata.
When a police officer is really there as an investigator, where we at any time, if we call police officers to an incident, you've got you're always thinking, you've got your little note taking, you ask people questions. I've had some incidents in life where unfortunately police were needed, and they take notes, they investigate. So it's a natural thing. It's like an instinct of a police officer when something's happening to go and have a look and investigate. And being that you were off duty, your instinct is still there, and you wanted to see for yourself, I guess, along with this other officer who's now probably in trouble the same way that you were. But that just seems like there should be nothing wrong with that. And it reminds me of what we dealt with on Friday regarding this police officer investigating the deaths of infants in Ontario, and her concern about that leading to finding out very, shocking information that, these deaths coincide with something else going on that our government has. I'm going to be very careful because we are on a platform today, and I think we can get away with having your story on there if I don't talk too much about the other thing, if you follow me. So this seems to be a problem that you're saying 1984 style, that police officers are not able to truly speak their minds or truly have that investigative instinct be unleashed for the protection of Canadians.
You're speaking about Detective Helen Grew, and I don't mind saying her name out loud because it is public information, and I hope Canadians start watching what's happening to Detective Grew. Her story absolutely parallels mine, and I'm very familiar with Helen's situation. Okay. She was similar to me in the sense that she had been asking questions internally as well before she was suspended for her investigative moves. So it does go to wrongthink. I had wrongthink within the Edmonton Police Service prior to going to Milk River. There was two small incidences that I know would have brought me to the attention of the executive officer team in the Edmonton Police Service. And the first one was the mandate within the service to disclose one's vaccination status. I had been dragging my feet on giving my vaccination status, even though I'm vaccinated, because I told one of our deputy chiefs that if this isn't illegal, it's immoral to be asking this question. Fast forward to today with a decision that recently came out of the city of Edmonton. That is true. They confirmed that that was illegal and immoral. And then the second incident was where the people under my command, working in one of the divisions in Edmonton, and there would have been 60 or so employees under my command during a shift. There was a policy of the Edmonton Police Service that if someone had not taken the COVID drugs, they could come to work if they showed a negative PCR test. It was my anecdotal experience that at any one time in that division of 60 people, there are probably 5 or 6 of them that were coming with a negative PCR to show that they weren't carrying the sick. And the Edmonton Police Service policy was that those people, even though they had proven, and again, I use the word proven loosely with those tests, that they weren't carrying COVID, they were not allowed into the lunchrooms. So you could go to a family fight, you could go to a robbery, you could go to trouble with persons, you could be wrestling with bad guys in the backseat of your car with your vaccinated partner. But when you got back to the division, you weren't allowed to go eat with them. This is when I got mad.
Mm-hmm.
So this was, to not mince words, I got pissy with the executive officer team. You are at a new level of cruelty to your fellow humans. Your heroes that were working on the front lines the entire time. And I sent a letter of what I just explained to you to the then Justice Minister here in Alberta, Casey Madu, explaining to him that there is a cruel segregation of employees in the Edmonton Police Service that had nothing to do with health and had everything to do with forcing people in line by ridiculing, demeaning them, and belittling them in front of their employees and their fellow employees. It only came to my attention because people in the division that hadn't taken the drugs were eating their lunch when they came back to the division in what was colloquially called the shame room. So you weren't allowed to go to the lunchroom. So they'd say, you dirty people, you can go eat in the shame room. And so I started asking, where's this shame room? So even though it was supposed to be a matter of privacy, whether or not people had taken the COVID drugs, the whole division knew who was dirty because they were forced over into the shame room. So if you can't tell now, I'm still a little bit emotional about that. That is over the line for me. And so much like Detective Guru, I had brought attention to myself by saying no more.
No more. And look what they did to the entire country in that regard, with being unable to go to restaurants. And I had a field day with all of that. Just absolutely, what we've been through has been terrible. So in your personal story, then you were suspended, is that correct? And then you've basically taken early retirement.
That's right. I was told by my union bosses that there's no hope. I was going to be off indefinitely. I have a young family, and just like every other Canadian, they have to eat. And it would be intellectually dishonest to say that I retired. I had an honest decade of service left in me. Again, I think I was starting to learn what I did at about 25 years. I believe that I could still contribute. I try and stay in shape. This is as gray as I've gotten in 25 years, and I'm sure it'd get a little whiter.
And you look young. You definitely look like you've got 10, 15, 20 years, that you could have put in, to me.
But I didn't have an option with what the leaders were doing by not asking what happened, by what the union said of confirming there's nothing they can do. I decided that I better get out now while I could and take that partial pension. So my story, again, is very similar to Corporal Bulford's with the RCMP.
Right. And they, Danny Bulford is a Canadian hero, and so are you, for standing up, doing the right thing, checking into things. There's a lot going on now, because now we do have these political prisoners, and I'm sure you don't necessarily have much comment on that, except I just simply am in shock, as are many, that they're not getting fair treatment either, being kept in remand for 554 days, or whatever it is, that this is 554, yeah. And this is sort of what's happening in our entire country. So As we close, I would like your thoughts. You've paid a very high price to be able to tell the truth, and it has informed you and made you wiser about what Canada is really going through and what's happening. I have really felt that we're kind of already seized in so many ways, and I'm very sad about that. I don't know what changes. Does a new political party coming in, at the next election, does that change all of this? Maybe for some things, but other things are just, we're facing a lot of different things that are really hard. Parents in this country are very upset. Like, for instance, speaking of, peaceful gathering, there will be a huge march September 20th in Ottawa and Toronto, where Muslims, Jews, Sikhs, atheists, Christians, LGBTQ as well, some of them that oppose the transgenderization of our nation, will be gathering peacefully. But this is not seen as an acceptable view by our Prime Minister. And it's a very interesting time because he's very pro LGBTQ and trans, the trans agenda that we've got going on, with a lot of kids getting school books, and there's a big push for it. And then the Muslims, and you certainly don't want to be called Islamophobic in this country, but you don't want to be called transphobic either. So there's a bit of a showdown coming up, because I always said this for about 5 years that I've been reporting on what they're doing in the schools, that the Muslims, they're not going to have nothing to do with them. And they're not nice like Christians, if I could be so bold. They're stomping on the pride flags, and they're making all holy hell happen, right? And this is something that the Christians have not done. We've just simply, some of us have been louder about it than others, and some have completely ignored it. But I think my point to say, as I give you a word, is it's come to the place in Canada where, if you do not bow to the tyranny, the climate change agenda, the trans agenda, the LGBTQ stuff, if you don't bow to all of these things, and now the freedom issues, and apparently, the tyranny of what has happened to us medically, then you are in danger of losing your job or facing true consequences. What is your thought? I guess you don't owe them anything. Can you be sanctioned? I mean, you've spoken out loud at NCI. Let me just ask you this. You can't get in any more trouble, can you?
No, they took away my livelihood. That's about it.
Wow. So you have quite literally earned the right to be able to speak forthrightly. What I respect greatly what you've done and who you are, and how this has happened, and how you're just willing to be courageous and speak about it. What does it tell you about Canada when you go to sleep at night and you can't quite sleep and you're staring at the ceiling? What are you thinking about what's happened? Is this what you expected?
Let me leave you with something positive.
Good.
The truth, I guess, is what matters. And if I can say anything, it would be to encourage our leaders to be bold. You actually just used the word bold. And when I say bold leadership, I mean leaders to say, damn the torpedoes, and simply support our Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Canadian Constitution. When I was a commander in the police service, we operated on what are called standard operating procedures. That means when we were dealing with situations where we think somebody's going to get hurt, we were under time constraints, and we're scared. Does that sound familiar? I'll give you the beginning of the pandemic, because those three things. Our leaders believed people are going to get hurt, they were under time constraints, and they didn't know what to do. When we don't know what to do, all we have to do is abide by those standard operating procedures. Our leaders had those. And I talk about, when I say leaders, I mean everybody from the PM down to the local police chiefs. All they have to do is point at the Charter and Freedoms that they had on the wall in all of their offices and say, when we don't know what to do, we're going to abide by that until one of our courts say that those standard operating procedures have been suspended. That's what we're going to abide by. The type of person that's going to do that, though, will have to abide by the truth. And what I can say from what I did with the Edmonton Police Service is that whatever happens from telling the truth must have been the right thing to happen, because there's no other option. And I can say to you today, Laura-Lynn, for me getting fired from the Edmonton Police Service, it was horrible at the time. But I think there's going to be pain anyway. If we don't tell the truth, if we continue to lie, the pain is going to be worse. And I think this is a Judeo-Christian idea, is that no matter what comes out of the truth, that was the right thing to happen. And I can tell you, for me and my family personally, by me telling the truth at the time, we have only flourished here in the sense that we're not only proud of what we stood for, because I don't do this alone. There's people with me that that love me dearly, that share the same codified Canadian values that were there before this Prime Minister trampled all over them. We need leaders who are going to do the same thing in the future, damn the torpedoes, and abide by those rights. And I can guarantee those people that when they do that, they'll come out of it not only smelling good, that they'll come out of it feeling good that they did the right thing.
And that, at the end of the day, is the absolute right thing to have happen, because you're right. There is no choice. If you have that conviction in your heart about integrity, there is absolutely no choice but to tell the truth. And I like the way that you're saying that. In fact, I think I will remember what you're saying. And I always like to write things down when people say something that helps us to remember. Whatever comes about, even if it's bad, from telling the truth, that quite simply is what is meant to be. There's no other way out. And then, in that respect, God will help you. Whatever happens, God will be with you. And I think what I'm hearing you say is you wouldn't want to go back and change anything, because what you did was right. And it wouldn't be good to have tried to preserve your job and just been basically another coward, unable to speak.
And to give credit where it's due, that's a very complex idea. What we're speaking about is covered very well in one of Jordan Peterson's books, a chapter that I believe that's called Tell the Truth, or at least Don't Lie.
Right. Right. Well, and there's a man who's certainly risen out of, some real controversy, having to stand basically against what was happening in his schools with compelled speech and whatnot, and his concerns about, this whole gender thing. Well, I thank you very much. Sir, you're very inspiring, and may God bless you, your wife, your family. May, any of your children that are watching be just so blessed and pleased. May your family have a legacy that they wear with pride for what you've done for this country. And I hope that, it's funny, what happens today might not be the same thing in a few years. If there comes about some real true awakening, you never know how your experience and your career could be put to great use, and, could open up some doors. And especially because you showed such courage. You just never know about, what could happen in the future. So I appreciate you very much. Thank you for giving us your time today.
Let me echo that back to you, Laura-Lynn. What you're doing is so important. It is because of you and your compatriots in the independent media that brought me to where I was. So if there's a chicken and an egg in this, I'm putting you first. So thank you very much for what you did there. And these connections are amazing how they happen. I don't know if you remember or not how we first met, but I met you in the airport on the way to the National Citizens Inquiry where I was giving testimony. So what you do is important.
I thought you looked so familiar, and I was trying to figure out why it feels like I've seen your face before, Okay.
Yes. What you do is horribly important, and thank you for what you're doing.
That is awesome. And I love meeting people across this country who have been, awakened by stories like yours and by the courage that you've shown. If you can do it, people generally, they're like, well, other people have paid this price, and courage inspires courage. And so that is wonderful. That's great. Thank you for reminding me of that. I would not have made that connection from so long ago, but I remember that moment, and that was terrific. Thank you for what you've done, sir. We have just tremendous respect. May God guide your way, open doors that no man nor demon can shut. Thanks for your story.
All the best.
Thank you. All the best. Isn't that wonderful? Wow. Wow, I wouldn't have remembered that. I'm inspired by all of these people, and you'll remember Danny Bulford. I remember being in, at the Freedom Convoy. I was there for the entire, it was 3 weeks in Ottawa fully. It took a week to get there, right? And I was driving in the convoy. I absolutely loved it. And my same experience, I echo what Rick was saying, in that the true people, the true patriots, the families that were there that loved Canada, we kept the streets cleaner than they've ever seen in Ottawa in those 3 weeks, and we stood peacefully. Just a shocking ending to all of that happened, and a shocking ending to a lot of these stories of people who peacefully want to discern the truth for themselves. And you know who the biggest scoundrels are, really? The people that came there and they reported so badly. CTV, CBC, Global, you bunch of schmucks. Honestly, I remember you guys showing up and you would just be shooting some abstract, stupid thing rather than capturing the heart of what was going on, and rather than understanding the true peril that our country was in and is still to this day because of your cowardice, because of the mainstream media's cowardice and refusal to cover the truth. We're still there. So, even now, I have a lot to say, and I'm not going to say it because actually I'm on, we're on YouTube, right? And so I better be careful. He's like, zip, 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 zip. Okay, because I want this former incredible officer's story to get out as far as possible. So now, if any of your loved ones are struggling with anything that's happened, I just want to offer this product that we've been featuring, and I do have it on a share there if you've got that there, JT. And so if you've got any issues with spike proteins and stuff like that, please check out the wellness underneath this show. In the description, you will see a link there. And when you go to pay, you'll get 10% off if you put my name, Laura-Lynn, in all caps. So we want to give you that offering. I know it's helping a lot of people. And so that's all I'll say about that. And we're going to close the show. Thank you very much. I am going to be heading to Saskatchewan. Let's talk about Saskatchewan. Do you have that poster by any chance, JT? So I know a lot of you have been praying for Art Lucier and the whole gang up in Kelowna area. Of course, we've had huge fires and people have evacuated. Art had to evacuate his home. Nonetheless, we are on our way to Saskatchewan, and Battle for Canada will be there August 24th to the 27th. I will be speaking on the very first night. So I pray that you make your way. If you're anywhere near, if you got to drive a few hours, I hope that you'll do it. Do you know what? We need each other right now. We truly, truly need each other so incredibly. So show up and be part of the fun. And I believe it's free. It's all free to go. And incredible guests that are going to be there. Another great event. It's not so free because it's a huge venue and it's a costly venue. It's a costly event as well. And that's going to be in the Toronto area. And this will be the Era of Champions. And we're bringing in Lance Wallnau, Dr. Byron Bridle, others that are there. Another Dr. Brian. I'm not even going to say his full name because, anyways, that's all I can say. You just need to be there. It's going to be so incredible. If you're anywhere in the Toronto area, go to my website, lauralynn.tv. Check out the events center, events section, and you'll be able to get yourself tickets to this event. It is going to be worth it. It is one full day of epic presenters, epic presenters. So can't wait for this and can't wait to see you there. Thank you to all of you who support us, who send wonderful little letters like this. I have a few on my desk. Different people that have you send me cards, and I'm heading to the mail today actually because it's so much fun. But you write me cool stuff, and you tell me how much you love me and appreciate me. You say wonderful things. The guests, the content, and the news, the current news that you report on is so necessary in the time that we are living in. We are not to fear. We are to stand boldly in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. And with this beautiful letter, you sent me wonderful, wonderful gift, and I thank you for that. And these people were super wonderful as well. And they moved to Kansas, and so they're from the United States of America. I just appreciate you writing to me from America. And you know what? American money, wow, it's like twice the amount of Canadian. So we appreciate it. All right. Thank you. When you go to my website, there's a little donate box there. And if you click on it, you're able to help us. So we don't do this any other way. I'm telling you right now. We have just signed up as an affiliate with the Wellness Center. So we get a little kickback, total authenticity there. But that's not how we make this happen. There's nowhere we're near enough to be making this happen. So we survive because great people like yourself decide that this is soil, this is ground that is worth investing in. And you send us your money, you send us seeds. We take that, we make this happen. We have a team, we have people that help to do administration, and that's for the events and for all that it takes to make sure that we can run this smoothly. And we are on a bare bones skeleton crew. We have somebody helps us do some editing so that we can get good little short clips and tweets up so that can bring information fast the way that people want it. And so that's what we do. And mostly we just rely on your good grace that you would see that this is valuable. And when you do that, it just so helps us. And years ago, when I had lost my position as a national broadcaster, basically I was standing against this transgender thing, and they just felt that wasn't their calling. And I knew it was my calling. And that was a really tough thing. And I told the truth, and I stood in the truth, and I lost my national job. And I don't blame them. They have a different mission, so to speak. But my mission, I knew from the Lord, was to, some people said that I would be like a trumpet, that I was going to be, there's another word they use for it, like a really loud one of those things that, had a couple words about being an oracle of God. So an oracle is like someone who speaks, but my job was to tell the truth, to tell the hard truth, and to get the word out there. And so when I did that, then I lost everything, like as far as a career, and that was really terrible. So now it's not terrible at all. In fact, I can't even see doing that job anymore. Like I wouldn't even receive it if it was offered to me. You know what I mean? Because this is so great, because this is, it's tougher. I think it's harder. It's a very hard grind being here every single day and getting, just the intensity that it involves, and doing it all myself, not having a whole, series of producers to help me. But I would not trade this for anything, because this is worth it. Me and my husband love this, and we get to work together, which is a real blessing, isn't it, dear? Yes. He thinks it's do you? Yeah, he does. He thinks it's a total blessing that we get to work together so intensely all day. Okay. All right. So while I was sleeping last night, I want to close with this verse that I was listening to, these scriptures that I was listening to. I was actually into Revelations. I started in Jude, you know, because sometimes when I wake up, and I woke up, I don't know if it's around 5:30 or something. So I put on the Bible Gateway and just began letting it play from Jude. And so I got to about Revelations 4, and it's just so magnificent because something amazing is going to happen. Like, we're all going to end up being right in front of God. We're all going to end up standing, and I guess it might be a judgment day, but it also might be just this season of incredible worship. And so as we got all through Revelations 2 as well, you know, in verse 7 it says, whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one who is victorious, I will give the right to eat from the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God. And then we got over to the throne in heaven, which was Revelations 4. And I guess I wasn't really sleeping. I was just kind of taking in all of this. And it says, after this I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven. And the voice I had first heard speaking to me like a trumpet said, come up here, and I will show you what must take place after this. At once I was in the Spirit, and there before me, and I think this is John speaking as he wrote the book of Revelation. At once I was in the Spirit, and there before me was a throne in heaven with someone sitting on it. And the one who sat there had the appearance of jasper and ruby. A rainbow that shone like an emerald encircled the throne. Isn't that amazing? That's the true meaning of rainbow. Surrounding the throne were 24 other thrones, and seated on them were 24 elders. They were dressed in white, had crowns of gold on their heads. From the throne came flashes of lightning, rumblings, and peals of thunder. In front of the throne, 7 lamps were blazing. These are the 7 spirits of God. Also in front of the throne there were what looked like a sea of glass, clear as crystal. In the center around the throne were 4 living creatures, and they were covered with eyes in front and in back. Can you imagine? Like, there is a whole world that is just, you know, out there. So it goes on to say that that those that were in the throne room were saying, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. Whenever these living creatures give glory, honor, and thanks to him who sits on the throne and who lives forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down before him who sits on the throne, and they worship him who lives forever and ever. They lay their crowns before the throne, and they say, you are worthy, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they were created and have their being. There's an awful lot that comes at the end of this story. All the injustice, all of the pain, at the end of all of it, it's actually worship. It's complete adoration of the Holy One, God, the Creator. Have a great week, everyone. I'll be seeing you tomorrow. God bless. You know, it's not easy to deliver the truth of what our sick world is doing, but for some of us, we feel that we have no choice. Because if we are silent about these abominable things, then we are letting evil go unchecked, and we cannot do that. For those of you wonderful people who are writing me and are sharing your encouragement, I am deeply grateful. Thank you for all the letters that you've been sending. Thank you for the donations and the support. I found out that in order to speak the truth, you have to become very, very strong. If you would go to my website at www.laura-lynn.tv, you'll find all of the ways that you can contact me. Remember, my friends, all is well. All is well. Thanks for joining me.